Mike Tyson was sitting in a big chair on a TV show. The lights were bright, and everyone was watching him. He looked strong, like always. People know Mike Tyson as a tough boxer who used to fight in the ring. But something very different happened that day. The TV host gave Mike an envelope. "This is a letter from a man who respects you a lot," the host said. Mike looked surprised. He opened the letter and started reading. As he read, his eyes got red. He stopped for a moment and blinked many times. Then, slowly, a tear rolled down his cheek. The letter was from Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, a country in Africa. In the letter, Ibrahim wrote, "Dear Mike Tyson, when I was a little boy, I used to watch your fights. You were strong, brave, and fearless. But it wasn't just your punches that made me respect you. It was your heart. You made me believe that even people from faraway places can become great. You helped me dream. You helped me fight for my people. Thank you." Mike's hands started shaking. He looked up and said, This means more than any trophy I've ever won." Everyone in the room became quiet. The host didn't speak. The cameras didn't move. Even the audience stopped clapping. Mike put his hand on his chest and said, I never knew I touched someone like that, especially someone like him." Then Mike did something nobody expected. Mike looked at the screen, watching President Ibrahim Traoré speak with so much peace and strength. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then he wiped his face and looked at the camera. "Ibrahim," Mike said slowly, "if you can hear me, thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. I didn't grow up with much. I made a lot of mistakes. But hearing this from a man like you, it heals something deep inside me." The crowd was quiet again. Everyone could feel the love in the room. This was not about boxing anymore. It was about something bigger, about hope, respect, and change. Then the host surprised Mike again. "We have one more surprise for you," he said, smiling. A new video started playing. It showed children in Burkina Faso. Some were boxing in a dusty ring made of sticks. Others were holding handmade signs that said things like, "Thank you, Mike," and "Our hero." One boy, no older than 10, looked into the camera and said, "Because of you, I believe I can be strong. I want to protect my village one day." Mike put his hands over his mouth. "This is crazy," he whispered. "These kids, they're doing this because of me?" He looked like he couldn't believe it. "I've fought in front of thousands," he said. "But this is the real fight. Helping these kids believe in themselves, that's the real win." Then Mike asked a question out loud. "What can I do to help? How can I give back?" The host turned to him and said, "What if we take you to Burkina Faso?" Mike looked shocked. He stood up again. His voice was louder now. Yes, let's go. Let's meet these kids. Let's work with Ibrahim. Let's build something together." Everyone clapped louder this time. It wasn't a regular TV show anymore. It was something powerful. And that's how something simple, like a letter, started something big. Mike Tyson left the TV studio that night a different man. He didn't go home right away. Instead, he went to his team and said, "Call the US Embassy. Call whoever you need to. I want to go to Burkina Faso." At first, people thought he was joking. But Mike wasn't smiling. "I'm serious," he said. "Those kids believe in me. I need to go see them." Just 1 week later, the world watched something amazing. Mike Tyson landed in Burkina Faso. The airport was full of people. Men, women, and children were waiting with drums, songs, and flags. Some people held posters that said, "Welcome Iron Mike," and "Burkina Faso loves you." Mike stepped off the plane wearing simple clothes and a big smile. He waved at the crowd and looked around like he was dreaming. "I've been to many countries," he told the cameras, "but I've never felt this kind of welcome. This is family." And standing there, right in front of the crowd, was President Ibrahim Traoré. He was smiling too. Mike walked straight to him. No guards, no fear, just respect. The two men hugged like brothers. "You made me cry on TV," Mike joked. "And you made a whole continent proud," Ibrahim said. Later that day, Ibrahim and Mike went to visit the same village shown in the video. The children who had trained with ropes and sticks now stood proudly in a line, waiting to meet their hero. Mike bent down to shake their hands one by one. "You're all champions," he said. One little girl asked, "Will you build us a gym?" Mike smiled wide. "Not just a gym," he said. "We're going to build a boxing school. A place for you to train, learn, and grow." The children screamed with joy. Some even danced. That night, Ibrahim and Mike sat by a small fire in the village. They drank local tea and spoke like old friends. "I used to think boxing was my whole life," Mike said. "But now I see. It was just the beginning." President Ibrahim nodded. "Now you fight for people. That's the real strength." The fire crackled. The stars were bright. And somewhere not far from them, drums were playing. The next morning, the whole village woke up early. Women were cooking. Men were fixing chairs under big mango trees. Children were running around in their best clothes. Everyone knew something special was happening. Mike Tyson and President Ibrahim Traoré were coming to speak to the people. A small stage was set up in the middle of the village square. Colorful cloths were tied to trees. Local musicians were playing talking drums and flutes. The village had never seen a day like this. Mike walked in, wearing a simple white shirt and a piece of traditional Burkina cloth over his shoulder. The crowd cheered, but Mike didn't wave like a superstar. He folded his hands and bowed his head in respect. When it was time to speak, Ibrahim went first. "My people," he said, "today we are not just welcoming a boxer. We are welcoming a man who shows us that no matter where you are born, you can rise, you can fall, and you can rise again. Mike Tyson is proof that pain can turn into power." The crowd clapped loudly. Then Mike stood up. He looked around. "You know," he said, "I've been to places with golden lights and cameras, but nothing feels like this." He pointed to the children in the front row. "You are the reason I came, because if I can change, you can too. If I can fight for my future, you can fight for yours." Everyone was quiet, listening. Mike paused. Then he said something no one expected. "I'm not just visiting," he said. "I'm staying here for a while. I want to help build the boxing school with my own hands. I want to train with the kids. I want to learn your ways too." Gasps filled the air. Some people couldn't believe it. A world champion, staying in a small African village? President Ibrahim smiled. "You are home now," he said. Mike nodded. "Yes, I am home." And while the sun rose higher in the sky, a new chapter was beginning. One of unity, purpose, and hope. The news spread like wildfire across Africa and the world. Mike Tyson was now living in Burkina Faso. People couldn't believe it. Journalists came from far and wide. But Mike didn't care about cameras anymore. Every morning, he woke up early, tied a piece of cloth around his head, and joined the workers at the construction site of the new Tyson Boxing Academy. He mixed sand. He carried bricks. He even helped dig the foundation with his own hands. The villagers watched in amazement. One old man said, "This is not just a boxer. This is a humble warrior." Children followed Mike everywhere. Some wanted to touch his hand. Others just wanted to listen to him talk. That he would often tell them, "You don't need gloves to be great. You need heart." President Ibrahim came to visit the site one afternoon. Mike had sweat all over his shirt. "You're really doing it," Ibrahim said. Mike smiled. "This is the best fight I've ever been in. And I'm not stopping." That evening, something beautiful happened. The village gathered under a giant baobab tree. The women danced in circles, singing songs about unity and strength. The men beat drums that echoed through the hills. Then, a small boy stepped forward. He looked nervous but brave. He said, "Mr. Mike, I want to be just like you." Mike bent down and looked the boy in the eyes. "No, son," he said softly. "You're going to be better than me. You're going to be stronger, smarter, and kinder. And I'll be right here to help you." The boy smiled wide. The people clapped, and the stars above the village twinkled like they were watching something special. Mike looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, Africa. I finally found peace." But what Mike didn't know was that something even greater was coming. Something that would test everything he believed in. 3 months had passed. The Tyson Boxing Academy was almost complete. It stood proudly in the center of the village, made of red earth bricks, bamboo wood, and a roof strong enough to hold back the sun. But it wasn't just a place for boxing. It had a classroom, a small library, and even a garden where kids grew vegetables. Mike trained with the children every day. They ran laps. They skipped rope. They learned how to stand, punch, and defend themselves. But more importantly, they learned how to respect each other. No fighting outside the ring, Mike told them. We trained to control ourselves, not to hurt people. One day, while Mike was teaching, a black car arrived in the village. It had tinted windows and shiny wheels. People whispered as the car stopped near the academy. Out stepped 3 men in suits. They looked serious. One of them walked up to Mike and handed him a folder. He opened it slowly. The man said, "Mr. Tyson, a major company in the U.S. wants to sign you for a multi-million-dollar boxing deal. They're offering a comeback fight. You'd be back in the spotlight, big money, big stage. All we need is your yes." The children went quiet. Ibrahim, who had come by for a visit, looked over at Mike but didn't say a word. Mike stood still. He stared at the paper in his hands. For a long time, nobody spoke. Then he looked up. "I've had the lights. I've had the money. But this is the first time I've had peace." He turned to the children. "You see these kids? They don't need a star. They need someone who stays." One of the men in suits said, "But you'll be turning down millions." Mike smiled gently. "I already have more than millions. I have a purpose." The men looked surprised, then slowly walked back to their car. As the engine started, the village kids ran back to Mike and hugged him. President Ibrahim stepped forward. "You passed the test," he said. Mike looked confused. "Test?" Ibrahim nodded. "Sometimes the world will offer you gold to see if you'll leave your diamonds behind." Mike laughed and pulled him into a hug. And that night, under the stars again, Mike sat by the fire with the village elders. He wasn't just a guest anymore. He was one of them. But far away, in a dark office, someone else had been watching that offer get rejected. And he was not happy. Something dangerous was about to rise. Something that would shake the village and test everything Mike stood for. Far away in a city filled with tall glass buildings and noise, a man named Mr. Cross was watching the video of Mike Tyson turning down the offer. He sat in a dark office, his face half hidden by shadows. He was the boss of the company that had offered Mike the comeback deal. He slammed his hand on the table. "This man was supposed to bring in billions," he said angrily. "Now he's building mud gyms with village kids? This is bad for business." One of his workers whispered, "Sir, should we try again?" Mr. Cross shook his head. "No, we don't beg. We break. If he won't come to us, we'll make him wish he did." He leaned back in his chair, smiling coldly. "Let's cause some trouble," he said. Back in Burkina Faso, the village was getting ready for the grand opening of the Tyson Boxing Academy. Children were practicing a special performance. Women were cooking big pots of rice and stew, and the local drummers were warming up their hands. Mike and President Ibrahim walked through the village, smiling and greeting everyone. But just 2 days before the event, something strange happened. Late at night, loud noises came from the edge of the village. People rushed out with torches and flashlights. What they saw shocked them. The front wall of the boxing academy had been knocked down. Bricks were scattered. The boxing bags were slashed. A big X was painted on the door in red. The children cried. Some of the villagers looked scared. Mike stood in the middle of the mess. His jaw tightened. His fists slowly closed. He wasn't angry because of the wall. He was angry because the kids were scared. President Ibrahim arrived quickly. He looked around and asked, "Who did this?" No one had an answer. Mike looked at the red X on the wall and said, "This wasn't random. Someone wants to stop what we're building here." Ibrahim nodded slowly. "And we can't let them win." Mike turned to the kids and said, "Let them break the walls. We'll build it again, stronger. But this time we protect it." That night Mike couldn't sleep. He sat outside his hut, staring at the stars. Suddenly, A small hand touched his arm. It was the same little boy who once said he wanted to be like Mike. "Don't be sad," the boy whispered. "You told us to be strong. We still believe in you." Mike smiled, pulling the boy close. "I'm not sad," he said. "I'm getting ready." Because Mike knew deep down, this wasn't the end of the fight. It was just the beginning of a new one. The sun rose slowly over the village, casting a soft golden light on the broken wall of the boxing academy. But something beautiful happened. The villagers didn't cry. They didn't wait. They picked up tools. Men, women, and even children showed up with buckets, sticks, shovels, and bricks. They began rebuilding the wall before breakfast. Some sang while they worked. Others wiped sweat from their faces, smiling with pride. Mike stood there, watching with tears in his eyes. "These people," he whispered, "they don't give up." President Ibrahim stepped beside him. "You gave them that fire, Mike. Now, they're showing the world what it means to stand together." But while the village was rebuilding, Mr. Cross was preparing something worse. He called a group of reporters from around the world. He told them lies, that Mike Tyson had been brainwashed in Africa, that he was being used for political reasons, that the academy was a cover for rebel training. Within hours, headlines started popping up on TV and online. Newspaper: Tyson in trouble? Newspaper: is the boxing legend being used in a dangerous plot? Newspaper sources say Tyson may be held against his will in West Africa. Back in the village, Mike's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His team in the US called. His old friends called. Even government officials called. Everyone wanted to know, was he okay? Mike stood in front of a camera and made a short video. He said, "I'm not in danger. I'm not brainwashed. I'm finally free. What I'm doing here is real. And no one can take it from us." He posted the video online. Within minutes, the video went viral. Millions watched it. But so did Mr. Cross. And now he was furious. "If words won't stop him," Cross growled, "maybe something else will." He picked up his phone and made a call. "Send them in." Back in the village, Mike and President Ibrahim were planning the new security measures. Fencing, watch posts, and volunteers who would guard the academy at night. But none of them knew what was coming, because late that same night, while the village was sleeping, dark figures started moving through the forest. The moon was bright that night, but the forest around the village was darker than usual. Crickets stopped chirping. The wind became still. Hidden in the shadows, men dressed in black moved silently. They wore masks and some carried strange equipment. These weren't ordinary thieves. These were trained men, sent by Mr. Cross. Their mission was clear: destroy the academy, scare the people, force Tyson to leave. But they didn't know the village wasn't sleeping. Since the first attack, Mike had trained a group of volunteers, young men and women, and even some elders, to take shifts guarding the academy. One of them, a teenage girl named Isada, was the first to hear something strange in the trees. She didn't run. She did exactly what Mike taught her. Stay low, stay calm. Alert the others. In minutes, the guards formed a circle around the boxing academy. Some had sticks. Others had whistles. One even had a drum, which he beat loudly to wake the village. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. The sound echoed across the village. Mike jumped out of bed, barefoot, grabbed his flashlight, and ran toward the sound. President Ibrahim did the same. The villagers came out holding lamps and torches. The dark figures saw they were surrounded. But instead of running, they started throwing smoke bombs to confuse the crowd. Mike shouted, "Everyone cover your faces and move the children away." He ran through the smoke. Even at his age, he moved like a warrior. He grabbed one of the masked men, pulled off his mask, and stared into his eyes. "Who sent you?" Mike growled. The man didn't speak. He broke free and ran into the trees. But they didn't succeed. The villagers, side by side, protected their land. Not one wall of the boxing academy was touched that night. The next morning, President Ibrahim called a national press conference. He said, "This is not just about Mike Tyson. This is about African pride. They don't want us to rise, but we will." Mike stood beside him. "They tried to break us again," he said, "but they only made us stronger." That day, something changed in the hearts of people all across the continent. From Ghana to South Africa, from Kenya to Senegal, people started building their own little boxing spaces. They called them Tyson corners. Kids who had no gloves started using rolled-up socks. Old tires became punching bags. And in every corner, they shouted the same word, unity. But deep underground, in a hidden building far away, Mr. Cross wasn't done. He called someone else. Not a fighter, not a soldier, but a man from Mike's past. Someone who once knew his darkest secret. He smiled and said, "Let's see how strong Mike really is when the ghosts come back." Far away from the village and the boxing academy, in a quiet city in the United States, a man named Carl was watching the news. Carl wasn't just any man. He was someone from Mike Tyson's past. Someone who knew secrets Mike had buried deep inside. Carl smiled when he saw the headlines. Mike Tyson builds hope in Africa. But his smile was cold. "Let's see if this old fighter still has the strength to face his past," Carl said quietly. Carl packed a small bag and bought a one-way ticket to Burkina Faso. Meanwhile, in the village, life was returning to normal. The academy walls were rebuilt, stronger than before. Kids laughed and trained every day. Mike was teaching them not just boxing but how to believe in themselves. One afternoon, Mike was showing a group of children how to throw a jab when a young woman approached the academy gate. She looked nervous but determined. Mike walked over and smiled. "Can I help you?" he asked. The woman took a deep breath. "My name is Lisa. I came a long way to find you." Mike's smile faded. "Lisa, why are you here?" Lisa looked down, then back up with tears in her eyes. "I know things about your past, things you tried to forget. But I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help." Mike stared at her. The children stopped training and watched. Lisa continued, "There are people who want to bring you down, but they don't understand who you've become." Mike's heart raced. "How do I know I can trust you?" he asked. Lisa stepped closer. "Because I was there when you hit rock bottom. And I know you can rise again." Just then, President Ibrahim walked up, sensing the tension. "Who is this?" he asked. Mike said slowly, "Someone from my past, and maybe the key to the next fight." The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and purple. Mike looked at the children, then at Lisa, then at Ibrahim. He knew his journey was far from over. Because sometimes, the hardest battles are not in the ring. They are inside us. That evening, Mike, Lisa, and President Ibrahim sat around a small fire at the boxing academy. The children were asleep, dreaming of their next day of training. Lisa shared stories from Mike's past, times when he felt lost, angry, and alone. She told him how she once helped him find hope when things seemed impossible. Mike listened carefully. For the first time in a long while, he felt a weight lifting from his heart. He looked at Ibrahim and Lisa and said, "I was scared to face my past again, but now I see it's part of what makes me strong." The next morning, Mike stood before the villagers and children. He spoke with a calm, strong voice. "Life is like boxing. We all face punches, hard times, fear, and pain. Sometimes we fall. Sometimes we get hurt. But what matters is not how many times we get knocked down. It's how many times we get back up." He smiled. "This village, these children, and all of you have taught me something important. True strength is not in winning alone. It's in helping others rise with you." The villagers cheered. The children smiled wide. President Ibrahim added, "When we stand together, no darkness is too deep. No challenge is too big." Mike Tyson, once known as a fierce boxer, was now a fighter for hope, peace, and unity. And in the heart of Burkina Faso, the Tyson Boxing Academy became more than a gym. It became a symbol of courage, friendship, and new beginnings. No matter how hard life hits you, you can always rise again. True strength is not just fighting for yourself, but lifting others up with you. When we stand together, we can overcome any challenge and build a better world.